I think corporate Democrats are helping fascists. And
Mm.
so, well, look, it's not a matter of I think. That's what they're doing. It's a fact.
Well, I think you're right. I have more complex feelings on the issue. The Pied Piper strategy of Hillary Clinton was a terrible disaster because it was Hillary Clinton. It doesn't necessarily mean that the strategy in and of itself is wrong. Now, I would have more faith in said strategy if it wasn't the corporate Democrats that you just mentioned who are leading this, and um, it is definitely risky. It's definitely risky. And I wish that the Democrats, say, would put money into candidates who were actually stronger and weren't like Maggie Hassan, who, it's amazing that in this election year, her seat in the Senate is even in doubt. But the reality of the situation is that it seems like negative partisanship for what Biden is calling MAGA Republicans. Thank the Lord that he graduated from ultra MAGA to actually mentioning the fact that they're Republicans in the title and that we have to be fighting Republicans, not just anyone associated with Trump. It's the Republican Party that is the problem. Um, they're they're kind of feeling cocky and confident going into the fall, and at the very least, they're feeling confident about the Senate. And this is one of the best chances that the Republicans have to taking back the Senate, is flipping this seat. And so elevating somebody this insane, who was just the other day saying that we should repeal the 17th Amendment as he's running for the Senate, meaning like that the senators would be appointed by the state Senate, which is like one of the most absurd things I've heard in quite a while. I'm not necessarily sure it's a terrible strategy. We'll have to see. I'm mixed on it.
Yeah. So, look, I'm glad you said that, Emma, because I want to be clear. The Pied Piper strategy in politics, in general, is not a crazy strategy. It depends. It depends on the circumstance, right? So one of the things that it depends on is what is the likelihood of success, right? So if you have a crazy opponent against you, and the country is, and the year is 1992, right? Or so is a crazy candidate who believes that Hugo Chavez, the ghost of Hugo Chavez, fixed the elections, going to win in 92? No, they would have no chance. And you'd be thrilled. And their Pied Piper candidate strategy could work, right? But here in these times, we've split into two different camps. And the Republicans, all of them, there is no MAGA Republicans. All Republicans are MAGA, okay? And so will they vote for a lunatic? Without missing a beat. It turns out they've been waiting to vote for lunatics their whole lives. They just never knew about them. They didn't get an opportunity. Right-wing media honestly didn't exist. Remember, Fox News came out in what, 96, right? And so, and Rush Limbaugh only got huge after Reagan took away the fairness doctrine. So there was almost no right-wing media in this country, other than a couple of irrelevant magazines, until the late 1980s. So they took a couple of decades to grow, but before then, all the media would have told you, no, you can't vote for lunatics. That was a slight upside of corporate media back in the day, right? So now right-wing media tells you, yes, no, you can't vote for anybody sane. No, you have to pick them right out of the mental asylum, right? And so now, could those lunatics win? Easily. I mean, Donald Trump won, right? But it's not just Donald Trump. A lot of those lunatics win, right? So now it's a much greater risk. But not only that, they're not like, oh, they're crazy. They want to make taxes 9% for corporations. That's crazy. Okay. No, they're like, oh, if we get into office, we're going to end democracy. We're going to have fake electors. We're never going to leave. We don't care about our system. We burn the Constitution to the ground, burn the Capitol to the ground. We burn everything to the ground. Democrats are like, yeah, sounds good. No, your probability of success is not very high, and the candidates you're helping are the worst of the worst. It might be the last election in 24, if you guys do this dumbass strategy again. And one last thing about that, Emma. What the Democrats don't understand, fundamentally, they're not lying. It's not a secret memo. It's not a conspiracy. They're in such a heavy bubble of their own groupthink. They genuinely don't get it. American people hate the establishment. They hate you guys. They don't think that they don't think that elite is a good thing. You think like, oh, Adam Schiff has gone to Harvard. I don't know if he did. He's elite. He's elite. You guys love us, right? No, they don't love you. They hate the establishment. And so when they're like, I will give money to the populace, what's the chance the populace is going to win? You idiots. The populace have a better chance of winning. So they're absolutely playing with fire. And come 24, if we don't have a miraculous, incredibly strong progressive candidate, we're all screwed.
Well, look, I mean, from my perspective, because the whole Republican Party is MAGA, you might as well, if you can, and be strategic about it. I don't necessarily think it's a bad idea to prop up or at least do these ad buys for the most ridiculous ones, because in the end, it continues to hurt the branding of the Republican Party when you further associate them with it. And I mean, I don't know. We may have a disagreement on it, but like I am mixed. I am mixed because it almost accelerates the understanding. No,
Emma, I love a good debate, and God bless your heart. And I love that you're saying that. It goes counter to what most people are saying. So I love anything that goes counter to what most people are saying, because it means you have the courage to say your own opinions and not some ideology, right? But I just don't agree. I think we're playing with fire. And you said, look, the brand, it makes the brand of the Republicans worse. Does it?
Yeah, well, look, I mean, Cenk, those people that watch the January 6 hearings, that actually moved poll numbers for a number of people in terms of the way that it was framed and the way that it was effective. It was on the fact that these Jan 6 hearings were on prime time, were on MSNBC, were on CNN. That was just a taste of, you mentioned the fairness doctrine there. That was just a taste of what Fox News has been doing for decades, which is picking something and hammering it home and getting into the public consciousness. Hillary Clinton's emails, Benghazi, whatever the case may be, Obama not being born in the United States. And then you see literally poll numbers start to shift among not just Republicans, but independents as well, as like, oh, well, maybe there's some truth to this. This did move the number for people, the January 6 hearing. So I'm not convinced that it's a bad strategy to continue to be aggressive on this front and elevate and show, hey, these guys are nuts. And that includes this other election denier in Bolden in New Hampshire. And so they think that they're going to be able to motivate these like suburbanites and via negative partisanship. And I think if you can do that in tandem with the young people who say like cannabis legalization, do it in addition to the student debt reform. That's not a terrible strategy. That's just, my thought on it.
Yeah, so I have a lot of thoughts on what moved the polling, and it's not one simple answer. It was actually a great number of things. I mean, this has been, the last couple of months have been as good as the Democrats could have possibly asked for, right? So and I agree with Emma. I think the January 6 hearings did move the polling. And some at TYT think I watched the polling too closely, right? But I do. I watch it like a hawk, and January 6th did move it. So that's score one for Emma's point there. Roe moved it the most, especially and more so than it moving the polling, it is moving the voters, because it's getting unlikely voters to register, and that's showing up in elections, okay? So that's a huge help to the Democratic Party. It's not a big help to progressives, because corporate Democrats don't care at all about abortion, but no one knows that. No one knows that Nancy Pelosi was trying to help anti-abortion candidates win, because corporate media is a bunch of liars, and so they would never say that. So they would just never say the thing that is obviously true and obvious outrage. She's sucking up millions of dollars in money to fight against the Republicans on abortion, and then she takes the money and gives it to the guy who's against abortion, Henry Cuellar. And the media's like, no, that's not an interesting story. I'm always fair. NBC News did one article on it. I Google it. Okay. So, all right, good. NBC News, you're on the board. Okay. On cable, nothing. The Queen cannot be criticized. New York Times, nothing. Washington Post, nothing. That's not an interesting story that Nancy Pelosi is telling people she's going to fight against the anti-abortion forces, and then gives them money to anti-abortion people. That's not an interesting story. F off. Of course, that's an interesting story. Corporate media is the worst. It's the worst. Okay, so that anyway, the Roe moved the numbers. But you know what moved the numbers a lot, and now the reporting is coming in, especially with younger voters, dramatically? Student debt relief.
Yep.
You know why? Because we're right. Look at the logic of it. It's indisputable. People who didn't like student debt relief, they exist, but to them, it's like their 29th priority. Oh, somebody got something. I didn't get it. I don't like it. And then, potato chips, and they lose interest, right? Whereas somebody who got $10,000 or $20,000 of debt relief is like, oh my God, I love the Democrats, and they're ready to go vote. They're ready to go vote. Duh! Do something for the voters. But corporate Democrats don't want to do that because they serve their corporate donors. How many times have you seen that in the media? None, because they're effing liars. They're corporate marketing experts. They're not reporters. Don't believe anyone in corporate media. All right. Anyway, but all that notwithstanding, Emma, these guys are not playing. I mean, and you think that populist right-wingers can't beat corporate Democrats? I think they could easily beat them. I mean, look at how easily things move from Republicans having a huge advantage in congressional elections 2-3 months ago to all of a sudden the Democrats have an advantage.
But
you sure they won't move 2 months from now? Are you sure?
I'm not sure, but do you think that the Maggie Hassan has a better chance against Bolden versus a standard corporate Republican?
No, but Emma, so there's two factors, right? One is what are her chances, and two is what is the danger, right? So her chances might be slightly improved, but only slightly, in my estimation. You think that it'll be significantly improved, but the danger is way higher, that we're going to have a bona fide lunatic who hates democracy in the United States Senate.
I guess my distinction between a standard Republican and the bona fide lunatics, I think, is a little bit. I don't know if I make that distinction, and the gulf is that wide. And so I understand the risk, and I'm not even saying it's a good strategy. I'm just saying it's up for debate. And for me, just to return to your other point about student debt, the abortion is 100% the number one driver of why Democrats have a shot in this midterm election cycle, and the circumstances have changed. I think abortion is motivating women more broadly, but for like a narrow suburban voter type, January 6th and election denial could put some Democrats over the edge, and then you have the young people who were the Biden's hoping to energize, and that poll swing is massive in just the month of August when he did this. And if he was smart, which is, he's too committed to debt being disciplinary to do this, but he would say, all right, if you elect Democrats, we'll do this through maybe we'll codify it in the House and the Senate. He doesn't even need to mean it, and say he'll do another 10,000. He should have a carrot approach as well for the rest of the young people, but he won't do that.
100%, but he will not do that.
Yeah.
Okay, so Emma, let me ask you one last thing. Maybe I'm in the bubble. Like, to me, because I cover this every day, it's my job, it's super obvious that Republicans have lost their goddamn minds, right? It's not close. It's not interesting. They're off they've gone rogue. They're in the asylum. But maybe for regular people, they don't even know that. I don't know. What's your sense of, do regular people who don't follow politics normally, do they know the Republicans are nuts, or is that? And I'm talking about independents. I'm not talking about Republicans, obviously, right?
Yeah.
I'm not talking about Democrats. Do they know that, or would that be news to them?
I do think that the pool of regular, normal people who think that Republicans are sane right now is getting smaller by the day. And when Donald Trump is running and going out there and being public, and it is more like Hillary Clinton in 2016 than it is like Donald Trump in 2016 when he's out there right now. I was owed this. I'm deserving of this. And it was stolen from me. This is my time. That is not a galvanizing message on the other side of the aisle. And I think abortion, Jan 6, student debt, that's a trifecta that is way more in favor of the Democrats and an independence for young people who aren't politically motivated. So for my sense of things, I think that it might be breaking through, even if it's just temporary.